Hey, how you doing? This is Adam Post, publisher of more than 1,000 comic books and marketing expert covering Hollywood panics as no movie breaks $100 million opening since Barbie. Let's get into the story. Before we do, please be sure you are subscribed to the channel. Click the bell for notifications. Give me a thumbs up. I really appreciate you guys. Ever since the pandemic and the strikes, Hollywood has not been able to count on any movies opening at $100 million or more domestically on their opening weekend. Disney especially has lost hundreds of millions of dollars, definitely in excess of $1 billion collectively. And with the introduction of streaming, if movies aren't great, if people aren't talking about them, if there isn't really a hot buzz around them, a lot of people aren't even going to bother to see the movie. From The Hollywood Reporter, what happened to the $100 million box office openers? Yes, studio and theater chain executives knew this year was going to be a challenge, but May is already a historic flop. Even The Fall Guy is fleeing for home early. May is considered to be the first summer month of the summer box office of 2024, and without question, it's a total flop. No one could blame the box office for needing an imaginary friend right now. For the first time in more than a decade, excluding the worst period of the COVID-19 crisis, no movie opening during the first 6 months of the year has come close to hitting the $100 million mark in its domestic launch. In 2023, for example, 3 films had accomplished this feat by the time Memorial Day rolled around, including the Super Mario Bros. Movie, which debuted to $146 million in April, on its way to earning $1.36 billion worldwide. To date, the top opening of the year belongs to March tentpole Dune Part 2, which started off with $82.5 million, followed by $80 million for Godzilla vs. Kong: The New Empire. In fact, it's actually nearing the 1-year anniversary of the last film to open to $100 million or more, Barbie, which did a $162 million debut in the latter half of July. It ultimately became the year's top-grossing film with $1.45 billion. With the 2024 summer box office now nearly 1 month in, the vanishing $100 million opener is especially problematic because moviegoing begets moviegoing. There's no more crucial season than the months when younger kids, teenagers, and college students are sprung from school. And if you can't get people into the routine of going and seeing movies, they're not going to go and see more movies. This is where, for example, Marvel destroyed the superhero franchise, not just for Marvel, but also for DC. If you go back and watch the first Aquaman, there was no way on planet Earth that the first Aquaman movie should have done $1 billion by any stretch of the imagination. But it did break $1 billion. And that was all because people were excited about superheroes then. They're not excited about superheroes anymore because of what Marvel's done to the superhero genre. They've destroyed it. This year, the high season started off with a groan of pain when Universal's The Fall Guy opened on the low end of expectations despite headlining 2 of the stars who were part of the Barbenheimer phenomenon: Barbie's Ryan Gosling, who enjoyed career-high attention and was nominated for an Oscar for his performance as Ken, and Oppenheimer's Emily Blunt, also nominated for an Oscar. No one expected the action comedy to reach $100 million in its launch, but $27 million? It's currently grossed $65 million against a net budget of $130 million, which doesn't include marketing. That movie will certainly lose millions and millions of dollars. The film's disappointing results prompted Universal to make the movie available to rent via premium video on demand for $19.99 on May 21st, only 3 weekends after it launched in theaters. Fall Guy will still play in movie theaters, but the move underscores the movie's failure to catch on in a significant way theatrically. Early PVOD has been a boon for Universal. The studio insists it doesn't cannibalize theatrical and that a movie hitting PVOD can actually improve box office grosses. So if a studio is not doing well with a movie, one of their options is, okay, we did do a lot of promotion, there is a lot of awareness, maybe I won't go see that movie, I'll watch it, but I'll watch it at home. Okay, well, they can offer the movie as a digital rental PVOD. With all of the exposure from the promotion and social media activity, it may not be enough to get people to push to go see the movie in movie theaters, but maybe if it's offered in a prominent place on an app, with online marketing, that's enough to sell the video for rent at $20. It's worked for Universal, and it's a way for them to recover some of the money that they otherwise are going to lose on the movie. Original plans for The Fall Guy were for a longer window where it would be out in movie theaters before it would be available for paid video on demand. But Universal had to change its course. The studio has been a pioneer in the early PVOD space, which has become a boon for all the studios, although many wait at least 31 to 32 days, as does Universal if a film opens to $50 million or more. The studios really have to look at any way they possibly can to generate money. Or, of course, you have the opportunity where, yes, there are people that will go actually see the movie. The movie may not do all that well in theaters, but for the people that really loved it, they may be willing to pay to rent the movie again and watch it at home. Then along came John Krasinski's If, Paramount's original live-action CGI imaginary friend family picture, starring Ryan Reynolds opposite a voice cast that includes just about every big name in town. If, which was expected to open with at least $40 million, debuted with just $33 million. For years, Marvel Studios has provided a spark to summer by opening a superhero pick the first weekend of May. Last year, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 kicked off May with a gross north of $118 million. But this year's calendar was dramatically rearranged between the production and post-production delays stemming from the labor strikes and even the pandemic. But it's disingenuous to not mention that Marvel absolutely destroyed itself with that movie, The Marvels. Even Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, another disaster for them, but not as bad as The Marvels. The Marvels was such a disaster, it forced Marvel to massively delay a lot of their releases. It really wasn't all post-production. We know it was, listen, we need to put something out that people might actually want to see, but there was no way they were going to release a ton of new Marvel movies in the wake of what they just did with The Marvels. Marvel's Captain America: Brave New World was scheduled to open the first weekend of May. Other big movies that moved out of summer 2024 include the next Mission Impossible and Spider-Verse installments. Quote, Hollywood is sucking wind right now. The strike wreaked havoc, said Wall Street analyst Eric Handler of MKM Partners. For the first time in years, we started off summer with an unproven character-driven film, he adds, referring to The Fall Guy. I'm not worried because there are big movies coming, but it does put pressure on the rest of the summer and the year. A big guessing game in Hollywood right now is which of the 3 big summer franchise installments might be able to reverse the curse and open with at least $100 million. Pixar's Inside Out 2 comes out June 14th. Universal and Illumination's Despicable Me 4 comes out July 3rd. Marvel's Deadpool and Wolverine comes out July 26th. New data, however, has changed the conversation regarding Inside Out 2. The Pixar sequel came on tracking May 23rd, and leading services show the movie starting off with anywhere from $75 million to $85 million. One service is providing a range of $77 to $93 million, all of them under $100 million. Disney is going with $80 million plus, which would make it one of the biggest openings of the year, and potentially the biggest if it passes Dune Part 2. The first Inside Out film opened to $90 million, and despite tracking, some believe the sequel still has a shot in the century mark. If not, the $100 million problem continues. Memorial Day weekend boasts 2 solid titles, the Garfield movie and George Miller's Furiosa, but neither is expected to come near the $100 million mark. Analysts expect more like $30 million to $50 million. May has been brutal in terms of moviegoing. For the May 1 to 19 corridor, domestic box office revenue is off nearly 20% from last year and 50% behind 2019. Year-to-date revenue is likely hovering around 20% behind 2023. Quote, we knew it was going to be bad, but not this bad, says a top studio executive of post-strike estimates predicting summer box office losses exceeding $500 million. Quote, there was no alarm bell going off this year telling people the summer box office had started. There was no big iconic movie that came out that made people think like, okay, it's summer box office time. Let me go start seeing movies every weekend. The movies aren't there, and the passion for movies isn't there because the product hasn't been there. Comscore's chief box office analyst has another theory. The industry has over the years backed itself into a corner with a fixation on the $100 million opening weekend as both a key benchmark for success and as a revenue-based marketing hook that, if not achieved, knocks great films on their heels and deems them financial failures, often unfairly. Studios are now placed in the position of defending their marketing and distribution strategies that, unable to power their big-budget releases, are scrutinized for not achieving this lofty goal. Quote, in today's modern theatrical marketplace, the emphasis should shift from the short-term gain to the long-term playability, since this is now a game of yards instead of inches, he says. And the analysis of what constitutes a hit or a flop must be reevaluated. They need to lower their standards to keep up with the lower box offices, to keep up with the lower interest in movies from theatergoers. Or they could just make great movies that everyone talks about. If there's no talk about a movie, if there's no buzz about a movie, the movie isn't going to be a huge hit. For a movie to hit $1 billion, two things really have to happen. One, pretty much everyone you know has to talk about going to see it, has to have some comment on going to see it, with many of those people going to see it. It has to be a everyone wants to see this movie kind of movie. The second part is people have to go and see it more than one time. You can't have people going and seeing a movie once and no one's talking about it and somehow that movie is going to break $1 billion. It's not going to happen. Here's the latest on Deadpool. From Deadline, Deadpool and Wolverine first day 8 million plus pre-sales are best for R-rated movie, ahead of the Batman Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. Hollywood Reporter says this, box office Deadpool and Wolverine first day ticket sales set R-rated record, climbs to $8 to $9 million. The Ryan Reynolds Hugh Jackman superhero pick doesn't even open for another 2 months. Here's some good criticism of these results. From Cosmic Book News, Deadpool and Wolverine ticket sales selling 50% less than Spider-Man. Thanks to AMC and The Hollywood Reporter, we get further insights into first-day ticket sales. The Spider-Man they're talking about is Spider-Man No Way Home. Spider-Man No Way Home was a massive, successful movie. Of course, not from Disney, and not from Disney's Fox. It came from Sony. How can it be that Disney doesn't control Spider-Man? Well, before Disney acquired Marvel, Marvel had sold the rights to Sony to make Spider-Man movies. Spider-Man No Way Home did over $800 million domestically, $1.1 billion internationally, and worldwide $1.9 billion. The Hollywood Reporter said that neither Fandango or AMC provided dollar figures. Insiders tell The Hollywood Reporter that first-day sales are likely around $8 to $9 million if extrapolating the 200,000 statistic released by AMC theaters. With Deadpool and Wolverine selling around $8 to $9 million in first-day ticket sales, thanks to an official press release from Fandango last year, we know it's selling significantly less than Spider-Man. And if it wound up ultimately doing half of what Spider-Man did worldwide, that's a good number. That number would be in the range of Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, definitely not a bad number. It's just not going to be no Spider-Man. That's kind of what the point is. But additionally, there are a couple of other factors you have to keep in mind. One factor is another comparison. Last year, Taylor Swift crushed all the ticket sales records for day one pre-sales. She sold $26 million worth of tickets to her fans, where Spider-Man No Way Home did $16.9 million in first-day ticket sales. But to put it into perspective, Taylor Swift only did $261 million worldwide, ultimately $180 million domestic. So one thing you can get out of that is, sure, Taylor Swift's fans, if they're going to go see the movie, they're going to buy the ticket on the first day. Not all of them, but many of them. And then many of those fans absolutely must have seen the movie more than once. But still, that's only $261 million worldwide. So it's difficult to draw a one-to-one comparison between Spider-Man and Deadpool, but we do also know that Deadpool is not going to be a movie that all kids can see because it's going to be an R-rated movie. And there's another aspect for looking at these reported numbers of first-day pre-sale tickets. It's very difficult to trust Disney, and it certainly doesn't mean that tickets weren't sold. But we don't know how many of those tickets Disney bought to boost their numbers so they could have multiple positive stories about the Deadpool Wolverine movie. I don't have numbers on it. I don't have inside information on it. But what I will tell you is Disney admitted for promotional purposes to buying many, many tickets to promote Captain Marvel. We don't have all the numbers. They never reported all the numbers. And when Disney reports results, or when we see results from Fandango, those are not audited numbers and audited results. It doesn't mean they're made up. It just means if Disney decided they needed this movie to look like a hit, they could very easily buy 50,000 or 100,000 tickets. They could buy all of the tickets. They can mark it off as a promotional expense. What do you think the promotional budget's going to be for Deadpool and Wolverine? If this movie doesn't succeed, it would be a disaster for Marvel. They already have to deal with what they did with the Marvels. If it can't get to at least where Guardians of the Galaxy 3 got, over $800 million worldwide, it would really look bad for the Marvel brand. Disney will do and spend anything to get a positive buzz going That means any possible trick they can pull, any expense they need to spend, they will do it to save the results of this movie and to save the Marvel brand. Lowering expectations for the results of these movies doesn't make sense. Making better movies, the kind of movies that people actually want to see, that they know their audiences want to see, is what these studios should do. And then they'll get their $100 million plus opening weekends back. Let me know what you think of all this in the comments below. Always love to see your ideas. Please be sure you are subscribed to the channel. Click the bell for notifications, give me a thumbs up, and I'll see you again soon with another story. And if I don't see you, I will miss you.